3 different answers. First he said it was around 9:20, then it was around 9:50. Then he went on to say he does not wear a watch, and it was about an hour or an hour and a half to 2 hours ago. Yeah. David Pomphret said the pair had been out shopping to Asda before returning home for tea, but his wife said she'd forgotten something and she'd gone to the stables. Pomphret claimed he'd walked their dog and carried out DIY before calling Anne-Marie as she was late. He went to the stables after attempting to call her to see if she was having trouble with the horses. The call handler asked what had happened to her, and the defendant said he didn't know. I'd just come round the corner and she was just lying there on the floor. This we now know was a complete pack of lies. David Pomphret told the emergency call handler he had just found his wife dead at the stables. He went on to say, my wife came to the stables a couple of hours ago and I've not been able to get her on the phone, so I have just come down to the stables and she's lying on the floor in a pool of blood. It looks like she's had her head beaten in. This is what he said in court. Mr. Cole, at the very outset and for some time, this defendant said he had simply found his wife. He did not admit that he had killed her for many months. In fact, not until well after he'd been charged. 20 seconds into the call, after being asked by the call handler if the patient was awake, Pomphret replied, "No, she is very dead." Mr. Cole said the defendant told a complete pack of lies to the police. David Pomphret made a 999 call at 9:47 p.m. reporting to the emergency services he had found his wife's body and was arrested on November the 3rd. Miss Pomphret used her phone to the last time by texting her daughter, "Did we open 3.5 to Big Field?" This was a reference to their horses, with her phone showing her to be in the area of the stables. David Pomphret's phone was used in the area of the stables at 8:06 p.m., 6 minutes after he had read a text from his daughter informing him that she was staying at a friend's. At 8:39 p.m, the Nissan Qashqai re-entered the Winwick Park estate. Anne-Marie's phone remained in the area of the stables and received 4 texts from her husband's phone, sent using Wi-Fi at the couple's home. A text at 9:02 read, "Where are you? All okay?" At 9:08, the Volvo exited the Winwick Park estate and was seen travelling in the direction of Old Elder Lane. At 21:32, a text said, "Where are you? Getting worried." Another said, "Is it the horses?" A final text at 21:39 said, "Getting torches, DXX." Mr. Cole, at that stage he had killed his wife. He took his Volvo back to the area of the stables and sent these texts inquiring of the whereabouts of his wife, having already killed her. This is what a psychopath does. This isn't just somebody who snapped and gone, "Oh, I'm going to kill her, I'm going to try and cover it up." This is what a psychopath does. In this case, a psychopath who doesn't know anything about how phones work. Qashqai left Winwick Park and headed in the direction of Old Elder Lane. Marie Pomphret was admitted to Wiston Hospital and was discharged 2 days later. What's this? On October the 29th. So it's a different time. Jurors are told Pomphret is charged with the murder of his wife and that he has admitted manslaughter. Court hears that David Pomphret worked at Barclays Base at Rodbroke Hall in Knutsford, whilst Anne-Marie Pomphret worked for the DWP in Wallington. Miss Pomphret's family paid tribute to her beloved daughter, wife and mom following her death last year. In a statement they said, "Marie was a beloved daughter, wife and mother. She loved nothing more than spending time with her family and out in nature, looking after their horses. We are devastated that she's been taken from us so young in such a senseless way. She will be forever in our hearts and we appreciate all the well wishes that we've received, but ask that our privacy be respected during this very difficult time." Police conducted door-to-door inquiries on the Winwick Park estate where the Pomphret's lived following the murder and had been desperate to trace potential witnesses in the case, including dog walkers and cyclists who had been in the area of the Fiddleth Bag pub on the night in question. A reward of £10,000 was even offered to anyone who could provide information that could lead to the conviction of Miss Pomphret's killer. Defence barrister Simon Christie also referenced unhappy domestic circumstances in the Pomphret's lives. The solutions architect and associate vice president at Barclays Bank appeared via video link to HMP Alt course, wearing a grey zip-up jumper and glasses and sporting receding grey hair and a beard. Miss Pomphret, known to friends and family as Marie, was killed on the evening of Friday, November 2nd, 2018. She was found dead off the stables of Old Elder Lane, having suffered serious head injuries. Judge Aubrey QC told the killer, this is from the Manchester Evening News report, "You intended to kill her and I am satisfied that it is so. It was a brutal and sustained attack perpetuated upon her. It was a ferocious attack causing catastrophic injuries. She had defensive injuries to both her hands and must have been pleading and begging for it to stop. You didn't. You continued to strike her and then left her there on the path. A family has been destroyed. A daughter has lost her mother, murdered by her father, who is about to commence a sentence of life imprisonment. He also said during questioning, and added, "They tried to get me to do mouth to mouth. Oh, geez, I almost threw up." His words about his wife that he'd just beaten to death. "They tried to get me to do mouth to mouth. Oh, geez, I almost threw up." The expert claimed he had suffered a loss of control and only should be found guilty of manslaughter. He said lost his cool after his wife had fired taunts at him, including calling him limp, which referred to, he reckoned, his problems with erectile dysfunction. Marie suffered a gaping hole on the right side of her head. He showed no emotion in the dock when the verdict was returned on Friday. Judge David Aubrey said, "You've been convicted by the jury of the crime of the murder of your wife. There can only be one sentence, a sentence of life imprisonment. I will determine the minimum term that you must serve before being considered eligible for parole on Tuesday morning." As part of a conniving act, Pomphret refused to give his wife CPR and told the 999 call handler she's as white as a sheet, her chest isn't moving, and declined to give compressions and mouth-to-mouth, added, "No, she's stone cold." When encouraged further, he replied, "Are you joking?" The diligence and determination of every single officer and member of staff who worked on this case paid off, and evidence they tirelessly gathered was so overwhelming. When Pomphret was presented with this after he was charged, he couldn't maintain the lie any longer. He was left with no choice but to plead guilty to killing his wife. However, what Pomphret did that day ripped the family apart and will now have to face the consequences behind bars. He added, "I can't imagine what's going through Megan's mind at this time. She will be clearly, absolutely devastated with the verdict. She will come to terms with what happened, I am sure, but there will be no satisfaction with what's happened now the truth has come out." Now, in a different article in the Mirror, forgetting how hard it must be for the daughter to deal with this, having known my father killed my mother and how I had to process it and the amount of years it took to come to the conclusions I did, and for me, I had to find out everything. It must have been so difficult for her, but a different article says, and this is the Mirror, "A Barclays Bank executive beat his wife to death with a crowbar after she called their daughter a fat slag. David Pomphret snapped at Marie Pomphret and beat her more than 30 times, leaving a hole in her head. Even if this was true, unless the daughter was present, why on earth would you say this? I couldn't. I couldn't hand on heart let my girls believe, know or think that I beat their mother to death because of something she said about them. The daughter will live out the rest of her days thinking to some degree that she's responsible for the actions of her father, and that she caused them. I can tell you now categorically, she is not responsible for the death of her mother. She is not responsible for the actions of her father, and she did not cause either. And whether she was out with somebody that night or not, there's a 99.9% chance whatever she was doing, whatever she was going through, was perfectly normal and acceptable behaviour. And this guy, unfortunately, is just a scumbag. He received life in prison with a minimum term order of 20 years. He will be 70 by the time he is eligible for parole. Hopefully he'll die in prison. He showed no emotion as he was led to the cells. Goes on to say, "You are in my view an accomplished liar. Judge Aubrey describes his attempts to cover up the murder afterwards as a web of deceit and lies. You are in my view an accomplished liar. As you said in evidence, you tried to get away with it. You may well have done so had it not been for one factor. You forgot to change your socks. All that you did afterwards was done in a calm, cool and collected manner. Something changed in you that night, planned or otherwise. Let's remember," this is me, not from the website, "let's remember it's what psychopaths do. He couldn't get it up, yet he snapped at his wife when she called his daughter a slag. There's something triggering for him there in my mind about the prospect of sex, whether that's concern that his issues would be discovered, which to him could be a massive deal, or a tiny little weeny one, depending on how you look at it, or that she has some or a sexual relationship that is normal and that he'd never had, probably due to the lack of control and confidence. I'm almost certain he'll claim he was sexually abused at some point in the future. Almost certain. The question is, will it be legit and that he'll use it as a reason, or will it be completely fabricated because he's smart, even if his pecker doesn't work properly? My best guess? He's been abusing his wife for years. Finally wanted her gone. Do I believe she's completely innocent? No, I don't. Although I've been called a lot worse by many other people, and I've not beat them to death with a crowbar. Yet. I don't know, I wasn't there. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. This type of thing, as much as I find it difficult to digest stuff that's very personal, and I do try and put sadly a comical tone on things, boils down to I don't know their circumstances. Maybe he did just snap. Maybe he didn't. But because of my history and my perception, I always look at him as a psychopath. There's too many things I see there that just don't make sense any other way. I don't know, I wasn't there. Let me know your thoughts. I'm Tracy Daly. Take care of yourselves and each other.